Hey guys, when was the last time when in one game you actually saw three brilliances? I believe you deserve to see something like this on the channel. I was black, white pieces had an IM, we played a King's Indian, what else? And I just owned this guy tactically. So let's go. He went for d4, I played knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, and you know my lately most favorite defense, King's Indian. I know that you like it so much, so fasten your seatbelts and get ready for show. He played e4, I played d6, knight f3, which is the main line, castles, and bishop e2. Statistically, white players go for more than 40% with the knight f3 and bishop e2 playing against King's Indian like this. Of course, here you have different options and choices. I opted for a classic approach for a King's Indian player. It's e5. Why do I say classic? Because Benko guys would do c5 followed by b5. Benoni guys would do c5. Some other, like more flexible but less theoretical guys in the King's Indian would play knight bd7 followed by e5. Although I am pretty much booked up lately in the King's Indian and I went for e5. The only drawback of this early e5 is that there is a possibility for white to play a boring d takes e5, d takes e5, queen d8, rook d8, bishop g5, where they threaten knight e5, threatening knight on f6 and pawn on c7. You play rook e8 and position is normal. Although my opponent went for castles and I played knight c6. He went for d5 and I played knight e7. I would take advantage of the situation and say that I'm very proud to analyze this game and to show you a line that is called Mar del Plata. But at the same time, it's Gligoric invention. And Gligoric once said, I don't know why did they call this variation Mar del Plata if I was the one who came up with this plan for the first time. So we're going to call it Gligoric plan or Gligoric variation. After 97, he played 91. You know this plan, so they can face our f5 with f3, while at the same time they want to go with a knight on d3. I played knight d7, and I insist on this accuracy. And just because of the variation that happened in this game, it turns out that the knight d7 was such an important move, and that's what you have to do in these positions. After I played knight d7, my opponent played bishop e3. I'm usually very happy when they put the dark square bishop there. Played f5, f3, played f4, bishop f2, and launched my kingside action with g5. The guy played rook c1, and once again an important accuracy, you first go with knight g6 before you place and put your knight back on f6. My opponent went for early c5. When somebody asks you, so what's the difference between King's Indian when they play knight on e8 in move number 9 and knight d7, then you're going to tell them this is the difference. So here you take by knight. This is not a so popular line, but here you take by knight. Of course, that makes no sense for white to capture by bishop, because usually the most difficult thing for black players is to get and somehow give activity to the dark square bishop. But when they lose the dark square bishop, our dark square bishop is going to get into the game way faster, better, to be way more dangerous, and this is considered to be very bad for white. So my opponent went for b4. It's still theory, and they all play these variations so you can make mistake. Of course, I played the best move, it's knight a6. Why? Attacking the pawn on b4, but way more important, defending the pawn on c7. By the way, they just go for district knight d7, knight b5, and if you blunder your pawn on c7, quit this game, forget about playing King's Indian, checkers is good enough for you. So basically, I went for knight a6. I played knight a6, defending my pawn on c7 and attacking pawn on b4. If he goes with b5, I would put my knight back on c5. But the guy played knight to d3. He defends the pawn on b4 and possibly wants to go with b5. I said, okay, no big deal. Let me just complete development and open up the back rank. And he played a4. On your question, what would I do if b5? Of course, I would put it back here. And then I still want to go with h5. I still want to go with, I don't know, bishop c8, knight d7, and knight f6. That's one of the plans, because what do you have to do? You got to eventually break with g4. So my opponent went for a4. He didn't push b5. I played h5. He played knight b5, and I played rook f7. Nothing. I just continued to apply Gligoric's plan. From another point of view, he just goes after the pawn on a7. I don't give a damn. So basically, I play bishop h6. Usually explain to my students, when they play c5, c takes d6, and create kind of backward pawn on d6, you gotta play bishop f8 to go with the rook g7. Here, I play bishop h6 to go with the rook on g7. The guy went knight b5, I played rook g7, and all systems are ready to go and to launch my attack. It's not gonna last like for a while. It's gonna last 7 more moves, and 3 were brilliances. Don't forget, this was a blitz game. The guy played queen c2. Looks like he wants to take on c7. Feel free to take it, baby. I'm ready to take my chances. I'll play rook c8. So I finally pushed the g4. The guy played king h1. And most favorite type of idea in the King's Indian is pushing g3, harassing the dark square bishop with g3, and sacking this pawn. If he takes, and takes, I can play knight h4, opening, threatening here, threatening this bishop. I can play knight f4. I can play h4 in some variations, but that h4 happens when the knight is on f6. And then you go h4 and followed by knight h5. Here, I would certainly go with knight h4, and I would kill this guy. So he went for bishop g1. Are you ready for the attack? I played knight h4. Still nothing, but the guy for the first time says my idea. I want to play bishop h3. I was in Mexico, Tulum, and I played against Scott, and we played in the finals. We played some tournament there, and in the finals I met Scott, who's rated 2200 FIDE, and I came up with a similar trick in different position, but pretty much the same idea. This guy played bishop d1. Like, what do you want, man? If you play bishop h3, I'm gonna play knight e1. But for the first time, I make the first brilliancy. I played bishop h3. So I wanna take on g2. So what's the point? If he takes, I'm gonna push g2 and it's mate, or he loses the queen. So this is the first brilliancy. Remember this one. He goes knight e1 and says, what the hell? Then I say, well, the only piece that does nothing in my position is knight. So let me just give it some activity. And what I like about this knight, I'm attacking queen with tempo and I take the pawn. The guy plays queen d2. And I said, okay. But what's the defender of g2? Ah, that's knight on e1. What's the defender of g2? Ah, that's this queen. Wait a sec. Boom. I play the second brilliancy. If he takes by knight, I'm gonna take his queen and mate him almost. If he takes by queen, what he basically did, I played another brilliancy. Knight takes g2. Very interesting one. If he takes, I prepared bishop g2. He takes, I take. He has to go here and checkmate. The guy has to go with rook. Actually, he went for rook c2. And when I played knight takes c1, when I threatened the queen, rook, and threatened g2 mate, he just had to call it a day and resigned. Hope that you enjoyed in this presentation of the King's Indian, Mar del Plata or Gligoric variation. Fantastic game for those who like to attack, those who enjoy attractive chess, and finally I made a good game. Bye bye, guys.